Well, good morning, everybody. Russ and the West Ham Matt Network. How are you? Happy Monday. Isn't it nice? Isn't it nice when we've got like nothing to worry about today? Well, we had nothing to worry about over the weekend. If you hadn't seen it, go and see we started our new series called Why. And this was why do we sing bubbles? And we've had loads of people, loads of really nice comments and people tweeting it and stuff. So thank you. If you haven't seen it, go and see it. And let us know what you want to ask us. There's other question. Someone's asked a question: why do we play in Claret and Blue? Why was it called the Chicky Run? Why do we play at Upton Park? Why am I a West Ham fan? That was the best one. Can you tell me why I've been a West Ham fan for the last 50 years, despite the fact we've only won a few bits and bobs? I can't answer that one, I'm afraid. But what I wanted to talk about today was basically what's happening now. And it's almost like a two-parter, really. So, like, we set the scene in the morning show, and in the afternoon, probably talk a little bit more in the lunchtime show, a bit more about sort of the mechanics and what we need to do to get there. And it's all stemmed from obviously not playing this weekend, and obviously 12 days. Was it a 12-day break since our last game or something ridiculous like that? And unlike some other sides who have done warm weather training, so for example, Arsenal, they were doing warm weather training, and as a result of that, a number of the players who would have played for the under-21s on Friday weren't there. So there's a sort of younger side there. We'll talk about that a lot more in the academy show. There's a load of talk about in the academy show, lots of new contracts and stuff. But Potter decided to do something different and went against the grain and actually chose against doing some warm weather training and instead gave the players a few days off, which actually I think will have a better effect. Now, actually, it's funny enough, we was listening to Kevin Nolan and Ginge. They were talking about their warm weather trainings to Dubai under Big Sam and how it's all brought them together. But I think actually a few days away just to decompress, I think was actually a very, very clever idea. And it's nice to see we're doing stuff a little bit differently as well. Sort of not what everyone else is doing. Everyone else is going to Dubes or whatnot. Obviously, Antonio's there with Fulkrug in the rehabilitation centre, but it sort of brims me with confidence a little bit that we're doing stuff a little bit differently. And I mean, there was pictures of Aaron Wan-Bissaka who's getting on a Eurostar train to Paris. So good luck to him. Hopefully they had a baguette or two and some snails. But for me, it was now they can come back and crack on now. And we've had a lot of games in reasonably quick succession. And actually having that couple of days to decompress, I think it's really useful. And also for Graham as well to, rather than be on the sort of the treadmill, which he has been. If you haven't seen his interview with Chris and Ginge on Ironcast, I implore you to go and see it. It's a very good podcast. And obviously I know it's a club thing, but actually you get a real sense of the man. But we're entering, obviously we've got February, March, April, May. We've got 4 months left, and then we enter. Now, I think I've said this the last 3 years, but possibly the biggest summer in modern history in terms of West Ham, in terms of the squad. We've had a rebuild already. We've had about 3 rebuilds, but we've got another one coming. Let's be honest. We've got another one coming. We've got lots of players out of contract. We've got lots of players could be bids likely to come in. And also we've got a new manager or new head coach in charge. And I think sometimes when you look at things pictorially, you sort of can get an idea of the task in hand. The task in hand. No, let's take Graham off. There we go. And actually, let's bring myself back in. Hello. And let's take off the logo. There we go. There's a lot that's going to be moving. There's a lot of the movers and shakers. I think in coming up to the summer, and I think we'll talk about it a little bit more probably at lunchtime in terms of maybe what we might have to do to make this sort of seismic change. But in terms of, we'll go with the blue box. In terms of, in expired. There's a number of players whose contract expires in the summer. We've got Fabianski. His contract is due to expire at the end of the season. So too, where is Vladimir Sufal? He's there as well. Although my computer's frozen. There he goes. Let's get him in the box there. That's a bit better button. Aaron Cresswell. His contract runs out in the summer. As to where is he? Where's Granny? There he is, Granny Dings. His contract runs out in the summer. And to Michael Antonio. In all honesty, I think the likelihood is we're probably likely to see, I think, maybe as a gesture of goodwill, we did it with Ogbonna. I could see Antonio maybe getting an extension for another year. We've done it, not just him, we've done it a few others. Flavor for Womney as well, the youngster. He had an additional 6 months added to his contract because of an injury. And then he's out of contract now, and he just joined Stoke City. Good luck to the lad. Nice lad, his Flavour. So hopefully he'll have a great time in the Championship. But there's 5 players who, 4 of those 5 have been the cornerstone of West Ham for the last 5 years, 5 or 6 years at least. I mean, Aaron's obviously been here a long time. Sufal been here a long time. Fabianski been here a long time. Antonio a long time. There's a lot of appearances. I wouldn't want to count. Probably over 700, I reckon 800 appearances between the 5 of them. So a lot of experience. And that's opens up the questions. Obviously, the goalkeeper's issue is something we'll be looking at. Obviously, the likes of Christian Hegge's gone back out on loan. Mason Terry signed a new deal, and he's at AFC Hornchurch. We'll talk about that more at Hammer's Headlines. Not Hammer's Headlines, the Academy show for both of them. I don't think there's necessarily that sort of next one who I could see could step in to that second sort of string goalkeeper position. I think Wes Fodringham is, in essence, a training ground goalkeeper, really, in all honesty. We know that Areola is more akin to the type of goalkeeper that someone like Graham Potter wants in his side in terms of his ball playing ability. And that's pretty obvious now. So that itself is 5 players out of the squad. Maybe 4 if Antonio, although there were reports that maybe Fabianski might be offered a new 1-year deal. But I just can't. Well, I suppose unless there's someone that we know we want to buy. I think Liverpool did the right thing when they bought the Georgian guy. I can't pronounce his name, but they bought him already. Valmelizinski, Yashili, whatever his name is. They bought him in for the summer, and already, so he'll be obviously still playing in La Liga, but in the summer he's coming back, and then so that sort of gives you an idea of where they're looking. So Alisson may be looking to move on. I know the other goalkeeper, Kalicha, old Cameron, we're looking at him. We have been looking at him as a potential. Aaron Ramsdale, been looking at him as well. If Southampton go down, so there's definitely a need for a 26 to 28-year-old goalkeeper to bring in and be your goalkeeper for the next 6 years. And I think there's a real opportunity there if you get the right person. So that's one thing that needs to be addressed for sure. For sure, indeed. We'll also have the likes of decisions made, or whether we make a decision on Evan Ferguson. Obviously, he hasn't even played yet, but obviously he's currently on a dry loan. So whether that's we go back in with he has a good 6 months, 5 months of us, and we decide to make that permanent or try to. Carlos Soler, of course, he's still on a moist loan, I'd say, slightly moister loan. And a decision needs to be made on him. 16, 17 million pounds seems to be sort of what's needed. And then I'm not including Jean-Claire because, in essence, if we stay up, we're buying him. That's the obligation. It's no, unless we get relegated, he'll be a West Ham player from June, July the 1st. June, July the 1st, whether it is. Now, whether we make a decision to then flip him, because actually, as happens for a few clubs, they had an obligation, and then halfway through the season, obligation is met, and then they decide to make a profit on him. I don't know. I personally want to keep him. I think he's a very good centre half, and I think actually under someone like Graham Potter, he'll thrive. And there's other players I think who would thrive as well. So realistically, if those, I mean, that's 7 players realistically wouldn't be in the squad. And then there's others. I think there's sort of a second tier. We've got obviously Kudus. And I think we'll talk about this more at lunchtime. Reports coming out that we may have to sell to fund this rebuild. Whether we think that's going to happen or not, I think the likelihood is Kudus. Obviously, his transfer minimum release clause comes back into effect, I believe, in the summer for £85 million. I think there's probably less suitors now than there were at the beginning of the season. In all honesty, with Mo, unless he captures some form in the next 4 or 5 months, I don't know whether necessarily we're going to get the plethora of bids I think we were looking at getting. I think some clubs may try and get him on the cheap, but like the budgie. But I think we're likely to receive bids for him. We're also likely to, I think, receive bids on Paqueta on the basis of the outcome of the hearing. Now, obviously it's been pushed now to the summer. So again, that's great because we've got him for this season. But then again, if it's pushed in the summer, then it could change all of Potter's plans. Whether he's, I would assume he's got plan A if we've got Paqueta next season, or plan B if we haven't got Paqueta next season. It was reported that his agents were at Flamengo the other day talking about a potential deal to go back home. I think that's probably more likely than a move to Man City, for example, which was touted for many years, many transfer windows. I think the likelihood is if he does go, it'll go back to Flamengo or back to Brazil, where they seem to be a lot more. Oh, actually, I do have. I thought I didn't have his number. I'll put Jean Claire there anyway, just so we can see. But that one's sort of all but agreed. Just got to stay up. So there's likely to get bids for those two. I think in terms of other players you like to see bids for, I still think someone like Luis Guilherme bids. Obviously, there is still a lot of interest from him from Brazil, from Portugal, Turkey, and Saudi. So he may be someone that we decide we want to potentially cash in on to take that money into the rebuild. Elsewhere, I think with the emergence of Ollie Scars, I think you're likely to see Emerson potentially moved on as well. If a bid comes back, maybe going back to Celia. Roma obviously have been interested in him for many times. So even that, I mean, take out Todabo because he's practically a West Ham player at the moment. So that's 5, 6, 7. That's 11 players already that we could see moved on. And there's others. I think there's still the whole sort of will he, won't he leave for Guillermo Rodriguez. I think with the emergence of Freddie Potts coming back from a very successful loan spell, plus JWP still around as well, I think that is something which you could easily see moved. Also, there was a lot of interest for Andy Irving, as we know, in terms of going out on loan to championship clubs, Blackburn and stuff. We're looking in. Whether that means a bid, I don't know. But there's obviously interest in him. And then also interest in a player who's currently out on loan, now for Gerd. With the likes of Barcelona and Real Madrid now interested in him. We'll talk about a little bit more in Hammer's headlines, but obviously he played on loan on another game yesterday. Another good performance for him. So, you get a scale of the task. So it's so people say, "Oh, why are we still talking about rumours?" Because we've got to get ahead of the game, my friends. That's what we're on now. 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So potentially 14 players. I'm not saying all 14 are going, but what I'm saying is there's at least half a dozen you're going to see out the door. And then there's players who might not fit the Potter style of football, or players who, what's he going to do with Nicholas Fulkrug, for example? You've got some of the youngsters, Gideon Kidoa on loan and various others who we'll talk about in the Academy show. But there's a lot happening. There could be a lot happening there. And I think the next question is, we can see the task ahead of us, but I don't think we've got. I personally don't think we've got all the building blocks lined up to do that task, and that's what I'm going to talk about at lunchtime. I think. Yeah, we'll call it a two-parter. It'd be like Netflix, but you can't wait for the next one unless you're watching this like the next day, where it'll probably have the recommended one. But let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. In terms of player outs, let's give us your worst case scenario of what you think. I think realistically, I think I could see Crest going, Ings going, Sufal going. I think personally, I reckon that we'll try and keep Fabianski for another year, and then but still try and look for a goalkeeper, so we're not left short. So we'll have 3 regular goalkeepers, and then Fab will be third choice or whatever. I don't know. I could just see that happening because you know what? Although saying that, I'm not being funny. It's like for Ariola, you brought someone like Cameron in. As long as it's done early, that's the trouble. I mean, I think the contract's only run out at the end of June, so you've got a month to sort yourself out a little bit. Personally, I think you're likely to see Kudus going. I just think you will see Kudus going. I think you are likely to probably see someone like an Emerson go because I think you've got Ollie Scars in there, and also you've got Somerville to play at left wing back position as well if they're playing more attacking. So I reckon you're going to see at least 6 out the door. I reckon. I don't think we'll make we'll wait and see what the jury's out about Ferguson. Obviously, yeah, poor lad, I didn't play a minute yet. So Soler, I mean, I would love to see him come, make that permanent. But again, I think it's up to the boss, isn't it? We as fans think, oh, he's going to go, but the boss might see something different in the old GP. So yeah. Anyway, let me know what you think, and I'll see you at lunchtime. Don't forget to like, comment, share all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys a bit later on. Take care. Much love. Bye bye.